33-story hotel and condo project.
I'd probably be
Okay,
like
let's
that.
stop. Tap.
This is a plan by the community for the community.
This one here. Show me.
No problem, Ken. Thanks for having me.
It's Kent Molgat for KelownaNow. And we're joined by Ihor Michalchyshyn.
Thank you.
Close enough?
Yes, exactly.
The head of the Canadian Ukrainian Congress,
Yes.
visiting the Okanagan. Nice to have you.
Yes, thank you very much.
So you have a couple of meetings tonight for people to get together. One in Kelowna.
Kelowna tonight at the Ukrainian Catholic Church, and in Vernon tomorrow night at the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, both
And
at 7 o'clock.
So what is the purpose of this Ukrainian Congress? It sounds from our discussion we had ahead of time that it's a way of sort of bolstering Ukrainian identity within Canada.
Yeah, so the Ukrainian Canadian Congress has been around since 1940. It's a national umbrella unifying organization for all the many kinds of organizations that exist in our community. It's intended for our community to speak with one voice, to the federal, provincial, or local government on issues of importance, whether they're multiculturalism, immigration, or more internationally on the unfortunate war in Ukraine that Russia is waging.
We'll get to that in a minute, but when you look at Ukrainians within Canada, it seems like the Ukrainian community has done a really good job of maintaining an identity.
Well, thank you.
We do something called Folk Fest
Yes.
in Kelowna, and there's always such a great contingent.
Yeah, probably the Dolina Ukrainian dancers
There's
who
dancers
come
and
into a meeting tonight.
there's foods that
Yeah.
we see. So it seems like there's a lot of other kind of European identities that are more lost to us. Ukrainians have done a great job in that.
I think
respect.
our community is very proud of the inheritance we have, sort of culturally, artistically, religiously. The latest census tells us there's over 1.4 million people who've identified as Ukrainians in Canada, who have some heritage of that. But I know lots of Canadians who don't have any blood heritage but really feel part of the community. I think when those first pioneers came, when people came after World War I, World War II, sort of fleeing oppression, they were very they loved the freedom that they had here to establish their churches, their schools, to their dance and culture in a way that they weren't allowed to in their homeland.
Right.
And I think that that has flourished, and more Canadians have embraced it, both from the food and artistic perspective. It's become mainstream Canadian.
Right, and BC has a good number of that
yeah.
Ukrainian population.
It's the third largest population, Ontario, Alberta, and then British Columbia, in terms of Canadians who have identified as Ukrainian.
And are there local issues that someone faces?
Well, I'm here in Kelowna because we don't know. We don't have a branch here in Kelowna. We do in Vernon. So we work with our local branches to sort of help them do the work that they do coordinating locally. I would say we did our AGM in Vancouver, and I've been to Victoria as well, and out in Calgary. So I think there's similar issues. A growing community in terms of lots of newcomers, immigration supports. So how do we support people coming from Ukraine or from other parts of the world that are new to Canada and don't know how to maybe navigate through the systems, and a lot of seniors and their particular experiences in terms of the history and the stories that they can share of our heritage, and a lot of people who want to have their kids learn another language or other cultural skills, whether it's Easter egg making or the church stuff, to get that kind of cultural heritage.
And what about
piece.
language? Is it important to you, to your organization, to preserve the Ukrainian language in Canada?
Yeah, it's not our main mandate, but we definitely have organizations across Canada, school councils, parent councils, who work very specifically on language programming, whether it's sort of the Saturday school model, which I went to, or sort of full-time public bilingual schools. So we support that. I mean, we work in all of Canada's official languages and in Ukrainian. It's an ongoing challenge, but there's lots of benefits for learning a second or third language.
When I think of Ukrainian issues, I right away jump to initially Crimea and then the eastern Ukraine, where we're almost numb now after about 3 or more years of fighting over there.
Yeah.
But it's ongoing.
It is. So one of the things that I do in Ottawa is just spend a lot of time talking to members of Parliament and the Government of Canada to remind them of the ongoing conflict that Russia continues an unrelenting war, both on the human rights level in terms of the way that they repress the Crimean Tatar people in Crimea, in terms of repressing language and religious rights, and the war, and we have to call it a war in eastern Ukraine, where the Russian backed army is shelling and shooting the Ukrainian side. Over 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed.
So is Canada doing enough to support the Ukraine on that?
Canada can always do more, and we're always happy to remind them that. But right now, Canada is taking a lead role in terms of training troops. There's an Operation Unifier, it's called, in Western Ukraine and throughout. So we're doing demining, basic first aid training, which these Ukrainian troops in the Soviet system never had. A first aid kit and how to use it. Everything to get up to NATO standards. That
Right.
Canada's there to sort of help these troops better themselves in terms of how they operate.
It does seem like Ukraine is almost an honorary member of NATO. It seems to get
Right.
support from NATO countries.
Yes, that's right, absolutely. And there's been a long partnership since 1991 after independence that NATO worked with all the post-Soviet countries to some degree, that they were interested in to provide some training. It's really about standards of practice and equipment and,
Right.
and moving from that Soviet model of a very bureaucratic system.
What's it going to take to end that? Because we've got 10 million people dead, 1.5 million displaced.
Yeah.
We've got to end that.
I mean, the Ukrainian army is doing a really valiant work holding the line. Nobody's advancing. The line of control is where it is. It's going to take Vladimir Putin deciding that the war is too costly and that he should withdraw his troops and his ammunition, frankly. They've shot down airliners, they've killed civilians, they've invaded Crimea. So someone in Moscow is going to have to decide that this war needs to end. Ukraine is doing everything it can to hold them back.
I imagine when you have these meetings that the conversation probably quickly goes to that, and it's sometimes hard to get other things done.
It's something on everybody's mind. I think a lot of us have friends and family that have volunteered or are in the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and we just had some films come through Ottawa with women veterans, for example, that are serving, and the Invictus Games, for example, were in Toronto, and when you meet Ukrainian veterans who have 3 or 4 amputated limbs because they've been prisoners of war in Russia, it's pretty stark and in your face.
Eastern Europe isn't so far away here.
These are people in Western Europe, Central Europe, as we say, who are fighting every day, and arguably Ukraine would say this is the front line of between the EU and the Russian Federation, right? This is the borderland. But I think we will get lots of other things accomplished at our community meetings. We're here to listen to people and hear what they do, what the Ukrainian community here does, what are the thoughts, what do they think about what we do in Ottawa, and we always are open to listening and getting advice.
Terrific. And so you can reiterate now, I guess, where exactly these meetings are going, what time they start, in case somebody's hearing about it.
So 7 o'clock tonight, we're at the Ukrainian Catholic Church in Kelowna, and I'm just going to get you the exact address because I don't know it. It's 1091 Coronation Avenue.
All right.
And then tomorrow night, we're in Vernon at the Ukrainian Orthodox Church on 4105 27th Street in Vernon. And just an opportunity for us to meet with people here. We're happy to have anybody come out and share their thoughts and learn about what we do as well.
Terrific.
Thanks very much for the time.
Glad to have you on.
Great.
And you're watching KelownaNow.